My mother died believing I hated her, and my family made sure of it. They blasted me online, called me heartless, banned me from her deathbed, and then threw me out of the house the day she died. I'm 31F, the middle child. My brother is 35 and my sister is 27. My mother never treated me like she hated me. That would have at least been clear. Instead, she treated me like I was unnecessary. Like I was an extra chair at a table that only needed 4 seats. Everything in our house revolved around appearances, not wealth or status, just the image of being a close, functional family. My brother was the dependable one she bragged about. My sister was fragile and needed protecting. I was the one who disrupted the story she liked telling about herself. If something went wrong, it drifted toward me whether I was involved or not. If my sister got upset, it was because I said something wrong. If my brother got into trouble, it was because I distracted him. If dinner was late, it was because I didn't help enough. My mother didn't shout much. She preferred making comments that sounded harmless until you realized everyone else was laughing and you were the joke. She would correct how I spoke in front of people. She'd interrupt me mid-sentence and say, "You're over-explaining again." If I tried to defend myself, she'd smile and say I was too sensitive. Eventually, I stopped talking unless someone asked me a direct question. One of the clearest memories I have is when I was 16 and she found my journal. She read parts of it out loud during dinner because she said I needed to stop being dramatic and hear how ridiculous I sounded. My brother laughed because he thought it was a joke. My sister kept her eyes down. My dad didn't react at all. I remember feeling embarrassed, but mostly I remember realizing no one was going to stop her. I left as soon as I could. There wasn't a big fight or a dramatic goodbye. I just stopped coming back except for holidays, then stopped those too. Contact faded naturally. She never called to ask why. Over time, I built a life that felt quieter. I stopped bracing myself all the time. I slept better. I didn't feel watched or evaluated. 8 weeks ago, my brother called out of nowhere. His voice sounded flat, like he hadn't slept in days. He told me mom had pancreatic cancer and it was already advanced. Treatment wasn't helping. The doctors were talking about months. He didn't ask me to come over. He just told me, like he was reporting information. 2 days later, he called again and said they needed help. Mom refused hospice. She said she didn't want strangers in the house and didn't want to be seen weak. My brother said he couldn't keep missing work. My sister said her kids were getting scared seeing their grandmother sick all the time. They wanted me to take weekends so they could rest. I said no before he finished explaining. There wasn't hesitation. It came out immediately, like my body answered before my brain did. He went quiet and then asked why I was choosing now to make a point. I told him I wasn't making a point. I told him being around her still makes me feel like I'm shrinking, that I stopped sleeping, that I feel sick before even walking through the door. He said everyone was uncomfortable. That didn't mean you walked away. A week later, my sister called crying. She said mom didn't understand why I stayed away, that she kept asking what she'd done that was so terrible, that she was scared of dying and wanted all her children around her. That made me angry in a way I didn't expect. Not emotional, just sharp anger, because she remembers everything else perfectly. She remembers conversations from years ago, birthdays, arguments between other people, but suddenly she doesn't remember how she treated me. They convinced me to visit once, just to talk. No caregiving, no commitment. I agreed because part of me thought maybe illness changes people. It didn't. She looked at me for a long time when I walked in, like she was trying to place me. Then she said I looked older than 31 and asked if I was taking care of myself. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask how I was. She asked my sister, while I was standing there, why I always looked exhausted. I stayed 20 minutes. My hands were shaking when I left, and I had to sit in my car until I could breathe normally again. After that, I said no again. Clearly, no weekends, no overnight care. That's when things shifted. My brother stopped asking and started sending updates. Long messages about medication costs, about how little sleep he was getting, about how much everything was falling on him. He never directly blamed me, but every message ended with something like, "We're doing what needs to be done." My sister started posting vague things on Instagram about loyalty and people disappearing when things get hard. People I hadn't spoken to in years started messaging me asking if everything was okay between me and my family. Someone even sent me a message saying, "You'll regret this later," which I hadn't told anyone about. I didn't respond to any of it. Then my brother called late one night and started yelling immediately. He said he was exhausted and that I was watching them struggle from a distance. He said mom cried after I left and asked why I hated her. He said I always thought I was better than everyone else because I left. I yelled back. I told him leaving wasn't arrogance. It was survival. I told him he never noticed how things were because nothing was ever directed at him. I told him being treated well made it easy to pretend everything was normal. He said I was rewriting the past to justify being being selfish. I said he was rewriting it to avoid feeling guilty for not noticing. We were both shouting by the end. He said if Mom died without seeing me again, that would be on me. I told him he didn't get to assign responsibility like that. He hung up. After that, communication became indirect. My sister would send short messages on WhatsApp like, "She asked about you today," or "She's weaker now," with no actual question attached, just information that felt like pressure. When I didn't respond, she called and accused me of pretending none of this was happening. She said I was cold. I told her she only wanted me there, so she wouldn't feel alone doing the hard parts. She said at least she was doing something instead of running away. I said staying didn't automatically make someone right. That turned into yelling on both sides. She said I'd always been difficult, always pushing people away. I told her she'd always needed Mom's approval so badly she ignored everything else. She hung up crying. A few days later, my brother sent a message saying if I wasn't going to help, they needed to stop including me in updates because it was too stressful explaining everything to someone who wasn't contributing. He said they would handle decisions themselves. I told him to do whatever he needed to do. Update 1. For almost 2 weeks after our last screaming match, my brother didn't contact me at all. No updates, no guilt messages, nothing. It was almost worse than the yelling because I knew it wasn't peace. It was buildup. Then one night around midnight, I got a 6-minute voice message from him. Not a text, a voice message. He sounded wrecked, not just tired, irritated in a constant, simmering way. I'll take a quick break here to remind you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments if you're enjoying the story, and tell us if something like this has ever happened to you. He said Mom keeps asking why I'm punishing her. He said she's telling visitors that I cut her off because I never handled criticism well. He said neighbors have started bringing over casseroles and asking where I am, and he's tired of making excuses for me. He actually used the word excuses. He said, I don't know what you're trying to prove, but you're making this harder than it already is. I listened to it twice. I didn't respond. 2 days later, my sister showed up at my workplace. She didn't call first. She just stood near the reception desk asking for me. I could see her through the glass before I walked out. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't hysterical. She was controlled, which somehow felt more aggressive. We stepped outside. She didn't ease into it. She said she hasn't slept properly in weeks. That Mom refuses to let her leave the room at night because she's afraid she'll stop breathing. That my brother has started losing his temper over small things, and they're snapping at each other constantly. She said she feels like she's drowning, and I'm watching from above. I told her I was sorry she felt that way, but I wasn't changing my decision. That's when her tone flipped. She said, you always do this. You detach and act like you're above it. I said I wasn't above anything. I just wasn't going back into something that wrecks me. She said Mom wasn't abusive. She said Mom was strict and had high standards. She said I always personalized everything because I needed to be the victim. That word made my stomach drop. I asked her if she remembered the journal. She said I was overreacting to something that happened 15 years ago. I asked her if she remembered being told I was the difficult child in front of relatives. She said every family jokes like that. I started laughing, not because it was funny, because I genuinely couldn't believe she was rewriting everything so confidently. She said I was cold. I said she was selective. She told me I thrive on conflict. I told her she thrives on approval. She got closer to me and said, at least I'm capable of loving someone when they're dying. I told her love doesn't require self-erasure. She said, you're unbelievable. You'd rather hold on to resentment than show up for your own mother. I said, you'd rather pretend nothing happened than admit it did. She walked away shaking, not crying anymore, angry. After that, things escalated in ways that felt deliberate. My sister created a private Facebook fundraiser for medical and care expenses. I wasn't mentioned by name, but she wrote a long paragraph about family members stepping up in different ways and others choosing distance. People who know us filled in the blanks. I started getting passive-aggressive messages from distant relatives asking if I was okay or if I needed time to mature. My brother sent me a spreadsheet one afternoon. Actual numbers, medication costs, equipment rentals, grocery expenses. No greeting, just the file and the message. This is what reality looks like. I responded for the first time in days. I said, if you're asking me for money, ask directly. He called within minutes. He didn't even say hello. He said, we're asking you to be present. I said, you sent me a bill. He said, because that's what this costs. I said I'd contribute financially if that's what they wanted, but I was not doing hands-on care. He snapped. He said money doesn't replace being there. He said I can't outsource guilt. I told him to stop weaponizing that word. He said I was heartless. I told him he was manipulative. He raised his voice first. I matched it immediately. He said I've always thought I was smarter than everyone. I said he's always needed to be the hero. He said I'm selfish. I said he's resentful. He said at least he's doing something. I said doing something doesn't make you righteous. We were both shouting, not talking, shouting. He said Mom asked if she'd done something so terrible that I can't even sit in a room with her. I said if she doesn't remember, that's not my job to fix. He said I'm cruel. I said he's rewriting history to cope. At one point, point he said, "You're going to regret this." I said, "Stop trying to scare me into compliance." He hung up mid-sentence. That wasn't the end of it. My sister started sending me screenshots of mom's texts to her. Not dramatic ones, just things like, "Does she hate me?" or "Did I fail as a mother?" It felt intentional, like she was forwarding them to trigger me. I finally replied to one and said, "Stop using her messages as leverage." She wrote back immediately, "You're unbelievable. I'm trying to show you she's hurting." I said, "You're trying to make me feel responsible." She said, "You are responsible." That's when I lost it. I called her instead of texting. She answered, and I didn't ease into anything. I told her she doesn't get to assign me emotional debt for a childhood she didn't experience the same way. She told me I'm delusional if I think I was treated differently. I told her she benefited from not noticing. She told me I'm twisting everything to justify being absent. We were both yelling so loud I had to pull the phone away. She said, "You're not special. You're just bitter." I said, "And you're blind." She said, "If mom dies thinking I hate her, that's on me." I told her if mom dies without acknowledging anything, that's on her. She went quiet for a second and then said, "You're disgusting." I said, "Stop calling me names because you don't like what I'm saying." She hung up. The next escalation came from a direction I didn't expect. My father, who has barely involved himself in any of this, called me out of nowhere. He never calls. He said I need to stop arguing with my siblings because it's making the house tense. He said mom can hear them fighting about me and it's upsetting her. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't ask what happened. He just told me to fix it. I asked him where he was when she read my journal out loud. He said that was a long time ago. I asked him where he was when I stopped coming to holidays. He said I was dramatic back then too. I felt something snap in my chest. I told him he doesn't get to show up now and play mediator when he never intervened before. He told me I'm exaggerating. I told him he's consistent at least. He said I'm making this about old grudges. I said he's minimizing things because it's easier than admitting anything. He raised his voice slightly, not yelling, but sharp. He said, "Your mother is dying." I said, "That doesn't erase anything." He said I'll understand when I'm older. I said I'm already older than she was when she humiliated me. He ended the call by saying he's disappointed in me. That word stayed with me longer than I expected. Since then, updates have slowed again. Not completely stopped, but reduced to minimal information. She's weaker. She's not eating much. Short, flat statements. No one has asked me directly again to come over. Instead, it's been reframed as my choice not to. Extended relatives have started interacting with my sister's posts more. Comments about strength, about loyalty, about showing up when it's hardest. No one tags me. No one confronts me directly. I'll take a quick break here to remind you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments if you're enjoying the story, and tell us if something like this has ever happened to you. It's all implied. I've been called selfish, cold, dramatic, bitter, immature, heartless, some directly, some indirectly, and every time I respond, I'm told I'm escalating. Update 2. I found out because a coworker mentioned seeing my sister's post before work. She asked quietly if I was okay, in that careful way people use when they already know something bad happened. I checked my phone and saw it hours later. A black image. One sentence about loss. No details. No names. Mom had died overnight. No call. No message. Nothing. I sat in my car for a long time before doing anything. I kept staring at my phone like it might ring late, like someone would suddenly remember I existed. It didn't happen. I drove there anyway. I didn't plan it. I just went. Not because I thought it would fix anything. More, because not going felt like letting the last piece of something disappear without me seeing it. The house was already full when I arrived. Cars lined up outside. People moving in and out carrying food, speaking in quiet voices. The atmosphere felt organized, almost rehearsed, like everyone already knew their role. My brother saw me as soon as I walked in. He didn't yell at first. He just looked at me, expression flat, like he was trying to figure out why I was standing there. That silence lasted long enough that people nearby started noticing. Then he said, loud enough for others to hear, "Why are you here now?" I said, "Because she was still my mother." That's when it snapped. He laughed once, sharp and angry, and said I didn't get to show up at the end after refusing everything else. Said I made my choice weeks ago. Said this wasn't a performance where I could walk in for the final scene. I told him I never pretended anything, that I said no from the beginning, that honesty wasn't the same as abandonment. His voice got louder. He said honesty would have been helping instead of standing at a distance criticizing everyone else. I told him I never criticized him for staying, only for trying to force me to. People had stopped talking around us. You could feel the room listening. My sister came in from the hallway when she heard the shouting. Her face was swollen from crying, but her voice was steady when she spoke. She said mom kept asking about me during the last few days. Said she thought I would come eventually. Said I could have given her peace and chose not to. That hit harder than I expected, but but it also made me angry immediately. I said peace wasn't something she ever gave me when I needed it. I said dying didn't rewrite everything that came before. My sister said, "You always make everything about yourself." I said, "You always pretend nothing happened." She stepped closer, shaking, and said I ruined every important moment by refusing to let things go. I told her things don't disappear just because she's uncomfortable acknowledging them. Someone tried to pull her back. She shook them off and said, louder now, that I always brought tension into the family, that even now I couldn't stop fighting. I said maybe everything had been broken long before this, and no one wanted to admit it. My brother lost his temper completely then. He pointed toward the door and told me to leave. Not quietly, not privately. He said I wasn't welcome there. Said I didn't get to stand in that house after refusing to be part of what happened inside it. I asked if he really meant that. He said yes. So I left. No dramatic goodbye. No one followed me outside. The door closed behind me, and that was it. A week later, I got an email from him. No greeting, just the funeral date, time, and a short sentence saying arrangements were already handled. No invitation for input. No mention of anything that happened that day. I stared at it for a long time and then closed it. I didn't go to the funeral. After that, things settled into something colder than fighting. My sister removed me from shared streaming accounts and family photo folders. Old group chats stopped updating. When I tried calling once, it went straight to voicemail. I didn't try again. Through relatives, I heard the house was being sold anyway. Medical bills were higher than anyone expected. Furniture being cleared out. Things divided quickly. Apparently, my brother plans to move closer to my sister once everything is finalized. Start over somewhere else. That's what I was told, at least. The end. NTA, your mom treated you like invisible garbage your whole life, humiliated you publicly, blamed you for everything, erased you from the family script. Siblings got the praise, you got the scapegoat role. You escaped that toxic shit show and built peace. Then she's dying, and suddenly they want you as free nurse slave so they can breathe. You say no, they unleash the full guilt arsenal. Passive-aggressive posts, expense spreadsheets, workplace ambushes. You'll regret this. You're cold/heartless/bitter. Funeral exclusion, no death notification. Classic flying monkey family smear campaign. Death doesn't wipe the slate clean. You don't owe your abuser your nervous system just because she's terminal. You offered money, visited once, got insulted immediately, held your boundary like a fucking champ. They're mad you won't play along in their rewritten perfect family fantasy anymore. Tough shit. You survived them. You're free. Not the asshole. Not even a little. Keep that distance. You earned it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite.